morning. I'll call on the Honorable Leader of the Opposition to grace us with prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Legislative Assembly now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations, for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, official members and ministers of cabinet and members of the Legislative Assembly, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And dear Lord, save us from ourselves. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
I receive apologies for the late arrival for the Honorable Deputy Governor and the Honorable Attorney General.
Presentation of papers and reports. Government of the Cayman Islands portfolio of the Legal Affairs Financial Statements 30th of June 2014 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Attorney General.
Honorable Premier, perhaps you may wish to move that it'll be dealt with later on the agenda for today, seeing that the AG isn't here.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the presentation of the report by the Portfolio of Legal Affairs with respect to the financial statements ending 30th of June 2014 be deferred until later in the proceedings.
Thank you. The question is that the presentation of papers by the Attorney General be deferred to be dealt with later on the agenda today. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The paper will be dealt with later on today.
Questions to Honourable Members and Ministers of the Cabinet. The elected member for East End to ask the Premier, the Honourable Minister of Home Affairs, Health and Culture. Question number 20.
I recognize the Honourable Member from the District of East End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this question number 20 standing in my name is directed to the Honorable Premier, and it asks, can the Honorable Minister say when the Electoral Boundary Commission will be appointed in accordance with Government Motion number 1/2014-2015?
Recognize the Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, the answer. Her Excellency accepted the invitation to appoint a Boundaries Commission as requested in Government Motion number of 2014, and as a result appointed the Electoral Boundary Commission on the 23rd of December 2014 in accordance with Section 88(1) of the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009. The commission is chaired by Dr. Lisa Handley. As per Section 88(2)(b) of the Constitution, the governor also appointed Ms. Adrienne Webb, who was my nominee as premier. Similarly, the nominee of the Leader of the Opposition as per Section 88(2)(c) was Mr. A. Steve McPhail, and he was also appointed by Her Excellency, the Governor. Madam Speaker, I had undertaken yesterday to provide, in the context of this answer, an update on the work of the Electoral Boundary Commission. That information is still not with me. It is being brought over, and I will circulate it to members in written form unless they wish me to do so viva voce. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member from Easton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wonder if the Premier can tell us if included in that are all the appointment letters and terms of reference. Included in the update that the Premier would be distributing. And if not, can he provide copies to the legislature?
Honorable Premier.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I can undertake to have that information circulated to members.
Member from Easton.
Madam Speaker, let me thank the Premier for that. And I want to reiterate the two things I asked for: appointment letters and the terms of reference.
The elected member for East End to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Land, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure. Question number 21.
Recognize the member from Easton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, question number 21, standing in my name, is directed to the Minister for Works. Can the Honourable Minister say what is the status of the agreement between Navasota Energy and the government?
Madam Speaker, I had asked, and unfortunately I may have asked too late, the original for the answer to this question to be dealt with tomorrow morning, assuming we're meeting tomorrow, simply because there were some corrections on the original answer which were not able to be dealt with before we got. But I would ask under Standing Order 23.4 if we could simply defer the answer of this question until tomorrow's sitting.
The question is that question number 21 be deferred in accordance with Standing Order 23.4. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Accordingly, the question is deferred.
The elected member for East End to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure. Question number 22.
Member from Easton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, again, question number 22, standing in my name, is directed to the same said minister, same said guy.
I beg your pardon?
The same said minister, same said person. Can the Honourable Minister say what was the cost of the Estelitibus extension built under the FCIA agreement, broken down as follows: A, the total cost, and B, the cost of the bridge?
Honorable Minister responsible for planning.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I would not for a minute have considered the member from East End being out of order, because I would have simply answered him very swiftly that guy work on ship. But that's just a joke between us. Madam Speaker, the answer to question number 22 is as follows. The total cost of the Estella Tibbetts Highway extension, broken down from the information that I have received, is approximately US $33 million. And the cost of the bridge was approximately US $4.3 million.
If there are no supplementaries, member from Eastern.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, can the minister tell us if this total amount of 33, I suspect that is, the 4 million is included in that 33. This 33 million, is that in the agreement with Dart Properties, I believe it is, Dart Realty, is this $33 million all inclusive in duty reduction on imported material and the building of the development of their properties, that they're going to get rebates on this entire 33 million?
Honorable Minister responsible for planning.
Madam Speaker, I want to make sure that in answering the question, there is no misleading factor here. What I understand is that the cost to Dart Realty included the bridge and the embankment, the relocation of the utilities, land acquisition, compensation costs, expenditures for the public beach, park improvements and enhancements, and that these were not included in the overall costs of the road extension, those things that I just mentioned. And Dart bore about 50% of the cost of the extension. Now, when I answer the question like this, it is simply because the original agreement was before my time. So when we're in looking at it as we speak now, it is a little bit difficult to look at the global figures that were used in the agreement to know exactly, because there's a net present value calculation that was done originally, and outside of the net present value there were other rebates which were given, and there were certain duty waivers which were given. But for me to tell you exactly what all of those components included, I just don't know the answer to that presently. And if I understand what the member is asking, is for the bridge itself, the cost of the bridge itself, whether Dart Realty is being repaid for that through some parts or components of the agreement. That's what I'm not 100% sure of.
Honorable member from East End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister for Finance recently announced, in responding to a question, said that thus far, this is December, I think it was, that the government had repaid DART some 11.89 million or something like that. Can the members say how much more is left? But importantly, Madam Speaker, the other part of this question is, if the bridge, in his response to the previous supplementary, he said that they had financed half of the road, as I understand it. So there's probably about 16 and 17 million dollars left. Is that correct?
Honorable Minister for Planning.
Again, Madam Speaker, it is difficult for me to answer specifically. I understand what the member is asking me, but when I say it's difficult for me to answer specifically. You see, this agreement included other components. So the actual cost of the road itself and the bridge were not the entire considerations. As I understand it, in the NPV that was calculated, the original NPV, which was calculated at $24 million US, how that was made up was there was a cash grant of $5 million, which was to be used for mortgage, saving mortgages, housing, and educational purposes, and $16.5 million of the Esther Tibbetts highway cost, extension cost, and there was also $2.2 million for the Reverend Blackman extension. So, you see, in using those figures, and of course, trying to be as open as I possibly can, but understanding now that there is a new third agreement, which is to be finalized, as I understand from the Honorable Premier very shortly. There was also the factor of the tourism accommodation tax rebates, which had been originally agreed upon, 50% of all of those, which now are not going to be included in the agreement. So the undertaking that I would give, since I believe I understand, and if the member doesn't mind me making the comparison, unless he wants to do so, regarding the bridge, would you prefer to do that yourself, sir? Since we've had the conversation, but you can do it, and then I would give the undertaking for what you're asking.
Member from Easton.
Madam Speaker, I was going to go into that question that the ministers prodded me to ask.
My God.
Madam Speaker, does the minister believe that the bridge should have been included in the overall cost to this country to get a road built in to West Bay? That is, in the rebates and the Judah exemptions and the like, i.e., should it be paid back for by the people of this country? And the one you wanted me to say was, in the instance of the previous one, the proprietor had to pay for it.
Honorable Minister, it's
That's
obvious the member is seeking an opinion.
Yeah.
You have a discretion.
He asked if I believe. Yeah, but that's okay.
Please proceed.
Yes, that's okay, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if we compare the bridge which the member refers to, which was the bridge at the Ritz. That bridge was specifically requested to be done by the proprietors of the property because it served as access from the front side of the property on the West Bay Road to the other side on the north-sound side, which would be on the other side of the road. So there was a specific benefit to the owners of that property, hence they were required to pay the cost of it, because otherwise there would not have been a bridge, and there was an extra cost. When the member asks if I believe, what I do not know, because I was not involved and had no knowledge of the original negotiations. I don't know whether anything was taken into consideration in those negotiations, what benefit this bridge is to the property owners, where the bridge is, which I believe the land registry would show belongs to the DART group. So should the bridge have been done more so to accommodate any planned further development by the owners of the property, then certainly it would directly be for their benefit, and I would have expected that that should have been taken into consideration with regards to the cost. What I do not know, and I can't say yes or no, is whether that was done. But I understand what the member is asking.
Last one, Madam Speaker.
Member from Easton.
Madam Speaker, will the minister agree with me that in his experience as a Minister of Works, Roads, on at least 3 occasions now, two occasions, will the minister agree with me that there was no absolute need for a bridge to be built for us to build a new road into West Bay that it was purported to assist in traffic alleviation?
Honorable Minister for Planning.
Not to be evasive, Madam Speaker, but unless there was some difficulty in designing the road simply by doing a road, and that the necessity of the bridge was for the accommodation of the road, then I would have to agree with the member. I don't know whether there were any engineering considerations why the bridge had to be built, or whether it was done to accommodate development. But if it was not done because it had to be done, and it was only done to accommodate future development, then certainly the proprietors should have borne the cost of the bridge compared to the actual road itself, at least the difference of what it would have been. That is a personal view. And it goes to the root of the principle that is applied either when roads are built or when lands have to be taken to build roads, public roads that is, and where you decide through the process that is dictated by law whether someone receives compensation or whether it enhances the value of the property at the end of the day when the roads are built, and whether there should be no compensation for that. So I think it's the same principles that are applied.
Member from Easton, this is your final question.
Thank you. I didn't say final, though. Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, can the minister give this honorable House an undertaking that he would look into under what condition that bridge was built, i.e. engineering principles applied such as he said, as to whether or not it was needed to facilitate the road, and if it was not required by engineering requirements to facilitate the building of that road to Westby, and it really was for the proprietor, can this minister give us an undertaking, further undertaking, that the government will look into the possibility of taking this $4.3 million out of the people's repayment to Dart Realty?
Honorable Minister.
I wish life were that easy, Madam Speaker. I hear what the member is asking, but the member needs to bear in mind that there was a legally signed agreement prior to this. What I will give the undertaking, certainly, is in the discussions prior to the final agreement to bring the subject up. And of course, I will, by discovery, determine what the member is asking. And if there is any merit to the discussions and there is any latitude, then certainly we will see if it's any possibility of doing that. So I absolutely don't have a problem with that. But the undertaking the member was asking about taking it out, there was an agreement prior to this. So I can't just arbitrarily say that will be done. But, right, but I mean, the legal issues will be checked carefully and then we'll see what the possibilities are. And I thank the member for raising the question, bringing it to the fore.
The elected member from Northside to ask the Honourable Minister of District Administration, Tourism and Transport, question number 23.
Honorable Member from the District of Northside.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to ask the Honourable Member responsible for District Administration, Tourism and Transport, question number 23. Can the Honourable Minister say, A, how much does it cost Cayman Airways per flight to operate the Emirates Air turboprop to Cayman Brac? B, how many paying passengers are required to break even on each flight? And C, what is the average number of passengers taken per flight since commencement of operations?
Honorable Minister responsible for District Administration.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the answer to question 23. I'd like to refer to Standing Order 23-4, which states, member of the government may decline to answer a question if an answer would, in the opinion of the government, be contrary to the public interest. Madam Speaker, in this instance, the answers to the questions are considered commercially sensitive information and should not be released because it could put Cayman Airways at a competitive disadvantage.
Recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, will the member give an undertaking, since he don't want to do so publicly, to sit with us privately and explain how the whole lease agreement works with this aircraft? And of course, when I say the lease agreement, not just agreement between the companies, but costs and everything that is included in it and the operations of it, etc.
Honorable Minister responsible for District Administration.
Madam Speaker, there's a business case that I can commit could be shared. The sensitive information here is to remember that Cayman Airways competes on a global basis. And when information that is sensitive to the operation of Cayman Airways itself is released, then it hurts every one of us in this chamber. So I would commit that the business case can be shared, and hopefully that will be satisfactory.
Madam Speaker, I'm well aware.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you kindly. I'm well aware of the aspects the minister speaks to, but we would want to, at least I would want to find out the lease agreement. Not just Cayman Airways business case for the operation, but the lease agreement, cost-wise, which companies have it, and etc. That's in private. That shares amongst us. It's confidential.
Honorable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I am happy to commit to share as much as possible to give comfort to the member.
Recognize the member from Northside and the member from Easton.
Madam Speaker, I don't want to be party to any confidential sharing of information because you know what happens, and then somebody gonna be accused of leaking it out. If the government is comfortable with the answer they've given me, I'll accept that. But I don't want to be a party of us going behind locked doors and sharing information which is meant to be kept confidential, because it's not going to be confidential in the final analysis. And my position is, this is public information. If you give it to me, I can tell my people that I represent.
Member from Easton.
You
My-
oh, do I know that?
You should have taken it.
Member from
Madam
Easton.
Speaker,
I don't believe that you have that last say.
I would like if the minister could explain to us, this honorable house, who has responsibility to the people and has authority over Cayman Airways to provide funds for it, what is commercially sensitive with the information on their operation between Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac and Little Cayman when we do not have any competition in that arena? Somebody needs, I'm asking the minister, not somebody, the minister needs to explain that to this country and this honorable house.
Honorable Minister, before I call on you,
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Minister, before I call on you, if I could just remind members to what the answer of the minister was. It says that in accordance with Standing Order 22.4, a member of the government, which the minister is, may decline to answer a question if an answer would, in the opinion of the government, be contrary to public interest. My understanding from the chair of that is that he has a discretion whether or not to answer the question. He has exercised the discretion not to answer the question. As a member of the government, it's a written answer, so I take it that it's done with the full concurrence and agreement of the government that it was not be in the public interest. As that interpretation, I'll ask Madam Clerk to continue to the next item of business. Madam Clerk?
Statements by the honorable members and ministers of the cabinet.
I received notice of a statement from the Honorable Deputy Governor. Unfortunately, he is not here at the time. He did give apologies for a late arrival. So perhaps I can call on a member of the government in the form of the Honorable Premier to ask for it to be set down for a later time if that's the wish of the government.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that the statement to be given by the Honorable Deputy Governor be deferred to a later point in today's proceedings.
Thank you. The question is that the statement that was proposed to be made by the Honorable Deputy Governor be set down for a later time on the agenda today. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The statement is deferred until later on today.
Other business? Private member motions. Private member motion number 13 of 2014-2015, amendment to the Customs Tariff Law 2014 revision, to be moved by the elected member from Northside.
I recognize the Honorable Member from the District of Northside.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to move private members motion number 13, amendment to the Customs Tariff Law 2014 revision, which reads as follows. Whereas Section 5 under Schedule 2, duty-free imported goods, the Customs Tariff Law 2014 revision, which is entitled Baggage and Household Effects, states in paragraph 1C, if such passenger is a resident returning from an overseas visit, dutiable personal and household goods, not including merchandise, at the discretion of the collector up to the value of 350 Cayman Islands dollars. Whereas this value of Cayman Islands $350 has not been increased for many years, while the cost of such personal and household goods have increased during that period. Whereas Chapter 22 under Schedule 1, Import Duties of the Custom Tariff Law 2014 revision, entitled Beverages, Spirits, and Vinegar, provides that certain beverages containing alcohol be charged duties on volume, that is, per liter, while other non-alcoholic beverages are charged a percentage of cost, insurance, and freight. Be it therefore resolved that government considers amending Section 5(1)(c) of Schedule 2 of the Customs Tariff Law 2014 revision to increase the value of dutiable personal and household goods to Cayman Islands dollars $500, and that such duty-free not be subject to the discretion of the collector, and that such a provision be allowed only to persons traveling on Cayman passports. And be it further resolved that government considers amending Chapter 22 of Schedule 1 to provide that all codes in this chapter be charged duties at the rate of 27% of cost, insurance, and freight.
Is there a seconder? I recognize the member from Easton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
The motion has been duly moved and is now open for debate. Does the member from Northside wish to speak on his motion?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this motion seeks to do two things. One, to increase the value of dutiable allowances allowed for residents returning to Cayman from CI $350 to CI $500. Also to make that duty allowance available only to Caymanians traveling on Cayman passports. And the second part of the motion is to bring, in my view, equality to the duty on alcohol, and also to provide relief by lowering cost on some alcohol, in particular alcohol that is normally consumed by Caymanians, ordinary people. Now, Madam Speaker, many years ago, the legislators saw it fit and recognized the fact that Caymanians traveling abroad, particularly at summer vacation time, always did shopping for themselves and their households, many cases, supplies for their children, whether in the form of clothes and what to go back to school in September, and for themselves to be able to dress appropriately for work. And Caymanians have enjoyed this. But I think it is fair to say that, and I speak subject to correction of this because I haven't been able to find the exact date when it was increased to $350. But I believe that was sometime in the 80s, if my memory serves me correctly. And everyone who travels today knows that just 10 years ago, what you could buy at a Walmart or a JCPenney or a Sears for $350 is substantially more than you can buy today. Less than you could buy today. And I believe that it is time that we provided this additional relief to the average Caymanians traveling. This does not apply to people who want to bring back merchandise in their suitcases for resale or anything else. This is clearly for personal use. And, Madam Speaker, I just believe that it is time to increase it to $500, and I don't believe that the government will lose a lot of revenue if it is increased to $500 from $350. The other aspect that I seek to correct is because I don't think that it should be at the discretion of the chief custom of the collector of customs, because it is something we provide for everyone, or we don't. And I happen to be of the view that it should only be provided for Caymanians. I don't see any reason why we should be giving economic migrants here for their own opportunity and work permits such relief when they travel. I think it is high time that we started doing things in this parliament for Caymanians and for Caymanians only. So that's why I've asked for it to be amended to say that it is only available for people traveling on a Cayman passport. The second aspect of this motion, Madam Speaker, deals with the way duty is charged on alcohol. And to my knowledge, there are only two items in the customs tariff law where duty is charged on volume, and that is on gasoline, diesel, or fuels, and alcohol. And I've often wondered why. And in doing a research for this motion, I believe I've discovered why. Yeah, the customs. Yeah, the customs tariff section of the motion. Now, Madam Speaker, everything else in the customs tariff law, duty is calculated on cost, insurance, and freight. But on liquor, curiously, it's calculated on volume. And I want to give an example, Madam Speaker, which will highlight what I see as the unfairness in such a method of collecting duty. If we look, Madam Speaker, at the lower end of alcoholic drinks, and Madam Speaker, I can use an example that I know because I have done it, right? If I buy a bottle of Havana Club 3-year in Cuba for $5 CI, I arrive at the airport and I have 2 bottles, as long as less than a gallon, because another motion deals with a gallon which they then confiscate from you. The duty on that second liter is $11.85 on a bottle of rum that costs $5. Now, if I buy a bottle of Havana Club 7-year, which costs $16.95 CI, the duty is still only $11.85. So the landed cost on the Havana Club 3-year, $5 cost plus the $11.85 duty, more than 200% duty, is $16.85. On the $16.95, the landed cost paying $11.85 duty is $28.80. Now, Madam Speaker, if I buy a bottle of Havana Club Maxima, which costs 1,600 CI, the duty is still only $11.85, and the landed cost is $1,611.85. And, Madam Speaker, if you can afford to drink Havana Club Maxima, you should be able to afford to pay more than $11.85 duty on it. Now, yesterday, Madam Speaker, I went around and got the selling price of these 3 rums. Because one of the arguments I expect that the liquor industry will be making, that if we go to a flat 27% CIS, it's going to affect and increase the selling price. For that bottle of Havana Club 3-year that cost me $16.85 to land it here, the selling price is $34.99 CI. 100% markup. The 7-year for $16.95 landed at $28.80. Retail value is $46.99. Greater than 80%. The Havana Club Maxima that I pay $1,611.85 landed is $2,200 CI. Now, Madam Speaker, the average Caymanian who wishes to go out and have a drink, not drinking Havana Club Maxima, he either drinking Havana Club 3-year or Havana Club 7-year, or it could be Appleton, Appleton Special, or Appleton Blue Label 21 year, because it's the same ratio. Appleton 21 Blue Label, I think, is $450, somewhere around there in Kingston Airport. But you only pay $11.85 for here. Judy. Appleton Special is $10, $11, Kingston Airport, $11.85 here. So, Madam Speaker, we are subsidizing the rich people drinks and overcharging the average Caymanian drink. Because, Madam Speaker, if we went to what I'm asking the government to do is, if we took a flat rate of 27%, the Havana Club 3-year that I pay $5 for, the jury on that at 27% is $1.35. Landed cost $6.35. Even if they increased their retail price by 100%, still only $13, not $40. The Havana Club 7-year, $16.95, 27% duty is $4.58, or $21.53 landed. And even again, to put it up 80%, it'll be less than $47. The Havana Club Maxima now, that I pay $1,600 for, the 27% duty on that is $432. Landed cost, $2,032. they could still sell it at 2,200 and make a small profit. The total duty to government under the two different scenarios is under the method of volume, irrespective of cost, insurance, and freight, total duty to government is $35.55 on the 3 bottles. Under the 27% cost, insurance, and freight, $437.93. More than 10 times the amount of duty. But the prices on liquor for the tourists, the prices on liquor for the average Caymanian can go down if we do it on a percentage of cost, insurance, and freight, and not volume. And the government would not, in my view, although it's difficult for me to say how many of each one of these various items is being consumed locally. And I'll be the first to admit that there's going to be less of the high-end consumed than of the lower cost. But I don't believe that government would be out of pocket a great deal of money. And, Madam Speaker, I think it would just be fair to all those concerned. I think it would be a great thing if we could lower the cost of alcoholic beverages to our tourists. Because it now wages that's setting up the price of it. Because 1969, when I graduated from school, I had people who went to the Holiday Inn to work as bartenders and bar helpers, and they were making $8 an hour. Beer was $1, mixed drink was $1.50. Gave him $1 tip, he put it in his pocket. God, you remember them days? Put it in his pocket, that was his money. He never had to share that with nobody. Today, along 7 Mile Beach, beer is anywhere from $8 up, and mixed drinks are $10.50 up. But you see the positions advertised in the Compass on a regular basis for $3 CI, $4 US per hour. And if he gets a tip, he got to share it with Tom, Dick, and Harry, who may be working out in the garden or in the kitchen washing dishes. So they can't say that the increased cost of alcohol in these tourist attractions is due to the cost of labor. And here we have an opportunity to lower their costs for the majority of the drinks that they sell to the tourists and the Caymanians. And, Madam Speaker, I invite the government to favorably consider this motion, increasing the allowances for Caymanians coming back off travel abroad, $350 CI, $500 CI, and to switch the method by which duty is charged on alcohol from volume to a percentage of cost, insurance, and freight. I don't know that I just picked 27%. The government might have a number that is more appropriate to keep the same amount of income that they currently get. I don't have a particular demand that it has to be 27%. I just use that as a figure to produce the different scenarios. It might be 20%, which may lower it even more, or 22%, which is more of the standard in the government charging on liquids at the moment. So, Madam Speaker, I ask the government and all honorable members to support the motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister responsible for Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to reply on behalf of the government as the minister who has responsibility for the Customs Department and the collection of import duties. Madam Speaker, there are 4 main issues to be addressed in the motion brought by the member from North Side. Number one being the dutiable allowance on personal and household goods. Number two, whether the allowance is subject to the discretion of the collector of customs. Number three, only Caymanian passport holders may claim the benefit, be it $350 or the proposed $500. And number four, that the assessment of import duty on beverages at an ad valorem rate of 27% instead of the against measured volume. With respect to Section 5, subsection 1C of Schedule 2, that being the dutiable allowance of $350. Madam Speaker, the current duty allowance for Caymanians and residents returning from overseas visits with household and personal items is set up to a value of US $350 or the equivalent of up to a value of CI $350 or the equivalent of US $416. All Caymanian residents must declare at the time of arrival the total value of all items acquired abroad, whether by purchase, as a gift, or otherwise, which are in their possession or their family's possession. And Madam Speaker, I would add at this point that the $416 is exclusive of any tax paid on those items. So it does not include the taxes paid. Madam Speaker, the allowance applies only to the goods imported for personal use of passengers and does not extend to merchandise imported for resale or commercial purposes where the duty is otherwise applicable. This allowance is extended to all residents, including children, and has been in place for many years. Prior to the amount being increased to $350, the allowance for all residents was originally set at CI $150. At the discretion of the collector of customs, this allowance could be increased up to CI $300. Madam Speaker, when the allowance was increased approximately 2 decades ago to a fixed amount of CI $350, the words, open quote, at the discretion of the collector, close quote, was no longer specifically required. So, Madam Speaker, it is really and truly no longer at the discretion of the collector. With respect to the revenue that is derived from, or that is foregone, sorry, Madam Speaker, that the government gives up through this allowance. Madam Speaker, with respect to the issue as to whether only Caymanians should get it or not just Caymanians and residents, we currently define residents as Caymanian or Cayman status holders with the right to be Caymanian, or having the right to be Caymanian, persons married to Caymanians or Cayman status holders, permanent residents, dependents, or permanent residents with the right to work. Our latest statistics show that for the year 2013, 85,715 residents took return trips abroad. And from January, and Madam Speaker, I must apologize to yourself, this Honorable House, and the member from Northside, that my numbers for the year 2014 only go to November, but I can get that correction for the member today. So for 2013, they took 85,715 return trips abroad. And for the year 2014, from January to November, they took 78,577 return trips. Now, these are trips taken by residents. If we assume that in 2013, everyone took advantage of the full allowance of CI $350, and Madam Speaker, if they haven't taken full advantage of the $350, then it stands to reason that it doesn't make sense that you increase it to 500. So we are assuming that everyone who took a trip took full advantage, used up the full allowance of $350. So if we assume that in 2013, everyone took full advantage of the allowance of CI $350, the total amount of revenue foregone by the Cayman Islands government was CI $30,250. If the rate was CI $500, then in 2013, the amount would have been CI $42,857,500, a difference of CI $12,857,250. Similarly, in 2014, up to the 30th of November, at CI $350, the revenue foregone amounted to CI $27,501,950. And at the rate of CI $500, the amount would have been CI $39,288,500, or a difference of $11,786,550. Looking at 2013 and 2014 combined up to November 30th, we have a total of 164,292 trips, return trips, taken by residents, which amount to a total allowance of CI $57,502,200. That is revenue foregone by the government, Madam Speaker. To increase the allowance by $150 from $350 to $500 per person per trip would result in a further additional loss of revenue to the government of CI $24,683,800. And Madam Speaker, this would cover all types of residents as I've stated earlier. Madam Speaker, if we were to apply this to Caymanians or Cayman status holders only, who are the most likely to hold Cayman passports, the total trips for 2013 and 2014 up to the 30th of November 2014 amounts to 129,958 trips, return trips. So 129,958 return trips. At CI $350 per trip, this amounts to a total allowance of CI $45,485,300. An additional amount of revenue of approximately $19,493,700 would be lost if the government was to raise the allowance from $350 to $500 per trip, Madam Speaker. On the issue of Cayman passports, Madam Speaker, we must also consider the other scenarios that would affect these numbers either way. Many Caymanian status holders do not possess a Caymanian passport. Many Caymanians travel, sorry, that was number one. Number one, many Caymanian status holders do not possess a Caymanian passport or a Cayman passport. Number two, Many Caymanians travel on passports other than their Cayman passport, such as a British passport. Number 3, many permanent residents hold a Cayman passport through naturalization, however, do not possess Caymanian status or the right to be Caymanian. We must also consider that any allowance granted to only those persons traveling with Cayman passports could cause further delays in the processing of passengers if customs officers are expected to verify the status of each passenger's passport. There is no doubt that this would have a negative effect on customer service for the Customs Department and the Cayman Islands government as a whole, not to mention the impact upon the impression that tourists would receive when trying to enter the country, given the delay in being processed. Madam Speaker, it would no doubt also result in the need to employ more staff to process the proposed changes. Madam Speaker, just for the sake of comparison, so that it is not taken in a vacuum, I will mention what obtains in other jurisdictions. Madam Speaker, in Jamaica, the per passenger allowance is US dollars 500 for all residents over the age of 18. In Cayman, it is for every person, regardless of age. In Jamaica, it is US 500 for all residents over the age of 18. To a person who has not been permitted duty-free importation within the last 6-month period. So in other words, in Jamaica, it is US $500 twice per year, once every 6 months. Only if you're over 18. In Cayman, it is every trip, regardless of age, US $416. In Bermuda, it is US $200 for residents, regardless of age, and US $50 gift allowance for visitors per trip. For the Turks and Caicos, it is US $400 for all, no age restrictions. In the BVI, it is US $50 per adult and $10 for each person under the age of 18 for returning residents who have been abroad for more than 72 hours. For Cayman, if you go in the morning, come back in the evening, you're entitled to the allowance. No restrictions. For Antigua, it is US $260 per person, regardless of age, once every 3 months, so per quarter. For Barbados, it is US $250 per person, regardless of age, once a year. For St. Lucia, US $250 per person, regardless of age, once a year. For the United States, it is US $800 per person per trip, as long as that trip is in excess of 48 hours. Again, Cayman is as long as it takes you to get from Cayman to the next country and back. For Canada, it is Canadian dollars 800 per person per trip, as long as the trip exceeds 48 hours. For the UK, British pounds 390 per person per trip outside the European Union, and that 390 equates to approximately 580 US dollars, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would also like to mention at this point that many of these countries also employ direct taxation. So for them, the per passenger allowance isn't a major source of revenue. But nevertheless, you can see that compared to the Cayman Islands, we are by far more generous than most. Madam Speaker, as a country, with the revenue model that we have, and that's a matter for another day. We can discuss that another day. The Cayman Islands has to be extremely careful that we do not whittle down every little source of revenue that we collect. Otherwise, within a few short years, we could find ourselves back where we were just recently. Contrary to belief, Madam Speaker, we can quickly go from having an expenditure problem to having a revenue problem. And the consequences of that will be far greater, both socially and economically, Madam Speaker. But as I've said, the way we collect revenue is a debate for another day. With respect to Chapter 22 of Schedule 1 and the 27% on alcoholic beverages, Madam Speaker, in the year 2000, a similar change was made for the import of champagne with duty assessed on the CIF value. However, very shortly after, in the year 2001, this change was reversed and they reverted to the current process as a result of significant loss of revenue to the government. Madam Speaker, it is our view that charging a rate of 27% across the board for beverages detailed in Chapter 22 will result in a significant loss of revenue to the government. Other risks to be taken into account include the fact that charging duty on an ad valorem basis creates the possibility of false documentation by undervaluing shipments. Added to that is the probability that market prices fluctuate, which in turn cause fluctuations in the amount of revenue collected by the Cayman Islands government. We must also keep in mind that Madam Speaker, that high revenue alcoholic beverages are normally imported for a specific occasion or time of the year, so they're seasonal. So your revenues would fluctuate based on the seasons. Madam Speaker, the current method of collecting duties on alcoholic beverages, based on a specific rate, is a more stable approach and will ensure that the government collects the amount due without the headaches of an ad valorem approach in trying to determine whether the value is valid or not. Volume is easily confirmed compared to value, which will result in the need for possibly more physical inspections, resulting in delay of clearing of goods if you had to do so based on value. Madam Speaker, by way of example, an invoice for 600 liters of rum in which the invoice costs at CIF, which is cost, insurance, and freight, if the invoice cost is 3,108 Cayman Islands dollars, if we were to charge 27% on this CIF value of $3,108, it would amount to CI $839.16 of duty collected. Under the current process of calculating duty at $11.85 per liter, it creates the duty revenue. The revenue collected, Madam Speaker, amounts to $7,110, which is the difference of CI $6,270.84. If you were to compare the ad valorem approach as compared to the volume approach on a case of rum for 600 liters with a CIF value of 3,108. Madam Speaker, to collect the equivalent amount of revenue for the same invoice of 600 liters of rum, the duty on an ad valorem percentage basis compared to the volume based specific rate would require a duty rate of 229%. So we can see, Madam Speaker, that using the volume approach is one, more stable, two, more easily identifiable and confirmed, and three, from the example that I gave, results in far greater revenue than if you were to adopt the ad valorem percentage base as is that is suggested in the motion. So, Madam Speaker, to conclude my response, and for the reasons stated above, respectfully to the member, Madam Speaker, the government cannot accept the motion by the member from North Side. And I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I do have some sympathy for parts of this motion. Now, if we take word for word what the minister said, you could swallow it hook, line, and sinker. But we can't. So what they're saying, this would seem on the face of it to be a lot of money that the government lost. Their rationale being that everyone who traveled took advantage, and the cost was, in one instance, some 30 million. But statistics don't always give a realistic and truthful case. In this matter, the government is saying that everyone who travel makes a claim for the $350 and would make a claim for the $500 if we went to increase it. And so I disagree with him. I don't think so. Just not possible. On the liquor aspect, I certainly agree with him. But on the rest of it, he's just making a case to say no. Madam Speaker, I have no problem and will support any initiative to give all our people some relief wherever we can. In this matter, though, I would not differentiate between passport holders and non-passport holders. As the minister pointed out, there are various facts that we have to consider in that. Some who travel outside of Caymanians, born Caymanians, have passports. Others don't. Some who travel have passports but are not yet full Caymanians, if you want to put it that way, but are capable of paying. While the poor washerwoman who come and clean our house, take care of our children, take care of our parents, and are the least able to pay, would have to pay if they went back home to wherever and bought back something here, they would have to pay for it. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with such a request. But I agree that we should offer some relief to all our people, as little as it would be. So I don't buy this argument because he says, I went away, and I think from what I understand, if I leave the island, that's two trips. So he's counting one as two. To get that number, it's 100 and something thousand trips. Is that over 3 years, or are you saying in 1 year? I thought he said that there were some 87, in 2013, there were some 85,715 return trips. So I don't know how he's counting that. Whichever way he's counting it, I don't believe, and I've witnessed this, that everybody that goes off brings back something, and therefore they don't pay the $350 and government loses that revenue. I don't believe that. So statistics, as I said, don't always give a realistic and factual case. And in this case, the government is finding a very, as I said, if you listen to it, you would swallow it hook, line, and sinker, but you can't. And I think we should be able to offer an increase. I at one point in time, we did look at what the other territories offer. They don't offer very much in many instances, as he pointed out. But I don't think that we should follow that example at all. So I don't agree with him. I agree with him on the liquor aspect. I don't agree that if the government would have accepted this, that we could not include the other people who, as I said, are least able to afford it. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Final call. Does any other member wish to speak or recognize the member from Easton?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to make a contribution to the motion that is currently on the floor to amend the Custom Tariff Law 2014 revision. Madam Speaker, I hear the government. I hear the government, and this government seems to have a lot of statistics. And I understand that. And I hear the reasons why they don't believe that they can extend it this far to help the people, because that is the intent of this motion. This is about people trying to get value for money. Here is what I mean, people trying to get value for money. When the minister says that there are other jurisdictions, our neighbors, who are not as generous as we are in this regard, we need to look a little further into that, because I am sure we will see that the cost of goods in their country is not as expensive as ours. So, Caymanians get a little disposable income, and they try to maximize the value of that. They go with their children or family, whatever it is, to another jurisdiction. And in our case, I believe it's more American, right in Florida or somewhere on the East Coast anyhow of United States, and they find the things there that is a little cheaper, and they try to maximize the value. And I know, Madam Speaker, the argument is going to be that the fact that they get it at a reduced cost is reward enough for them. But that compound with $350 allowance is reward enough for not spending here. And, Madam Speaker, that argument will certainly hold some merit, but what about the person who we recognize in this country, Madam Speaker, does not have the means to live here? The Minister for Education, Labor, yesterday came here, and for the last week she has been on the media circuit about helping with minimum wage to try and enhance the lives of people. And I support her efforts. We, forever, Madam Speaker, the government of this country, the governance of this country, has never looked to create a new governance model in revenue models for this country. We have forever sat on our laurels and taxed the poor man. That's what we have done. At the expense of the poor man, others survive. Others survive in our country. We give them duty concessions. There are very few things in this country that we tax based on capital gain. The motor vehicles we do on capital gain. But everything else, yes, Madam Speaker, I agree, and I will agree with anyone that some staples we have duty-free. But is that enough for people to raise their heads above the water or get the straws out of their mouth because that's what they have to use to breathe, to stick it up above their head, the water? Therein lies our problem. Therein lies, and Madam, why Caymanians do not or are not surviving in their own community. The government is, right or wrong, is trying to get the country back on a sound financial track, according to them. And by so doing, we are announcing that $120 million surplus expected for the next budget, or 150. Madam Speaker, at whose expense? We continue to hear, not only this government, but other governments, giving concessions to all others, giving concession to some of them that even know us concessions. Shouldn't have gone there right now. I gotta leave that. Because that one, we can have our own discussions on. Madam Speaker, I know it, that this little increase would assist the working man, you know. That's who's going to assist. and I would implore upon the government that they should reconsider their position. Madam Speaker, every time I go away, I pay my duties. But whilst doing so, I see people come through the line who are business people. Not only do they have sacks, but they got plenty more than me. And they go through the line that is non-declaring. Now, I would like to know who goes on vacation with 5 big armored duffel bags. Madam Speaker, I saw a very prominent lady in our society come through one night, and talking to her in the customs area and helping her get her luggage, she had must be about, I don't know, 8 or so big bags and boxes. She had gone up to get her son from college. He wasn't coming now, but she was trying to bring back some of the books and all his second-hand belongings that he had over the 5-year span in college. I had mine to declare, so I went in the line to declare and went over to go to pay it. And they searched her down to the very folders the kid had with his lessons in it, looking in them. Okay, no problem. I felt a little sorry for her because she was a little upset. But of course, the customs has no place to believe her. And she was visibly upset, knowing what she knew that what she was doing it. Anyway, she was there I was standing in line for probably 4 or 5 minutes because other people were in front of me. And I left her there, and they were still searching her. While standing there, I took the time to turn around to make sure I was seeing what was right and comparing it. And there were at least 3 business people come through, and each had 5 duffel bags. And they went through. Now, I can't say what was in it, Madam Speaker. It could have been air. They could have pumped it up with air. But they were tight. And the air pressure was high. So was hers. But it was books. I saw them taking the books out. I saw them taking out the jeans that I know wasn't for her. And the shirts that look very much like men's shirt. And the briefs that look very much like men's brief. So therein lies much of our problem with how much the government collects, or lack thereof, that the minister spoke of. I understand that the 500 is going to exponentially increase what government gives away. But my suggestion is that whilst the customs have discretion, there is very little when you see somebody with 5 duffel bags. And you know they're business people, and you're letting them through. Now, Madam Speaker, let me admit right now, I don't know what was in the bag. I don't know what the bags, I don't know what the conditions were. It could have been anything. The person could have been coming home too or bringing their kids back from school. I don't know. All I am saying is that in our exercise of our discretion, we have to be extremely, extremely vigilant. That's all I'm saying. And maybe, just maybe, some of that lost revenue can be attributed to people who are not declaring their total value. I encourage people to pay their duties because certainly our population being so small does not necessarily support, and the cost that government puts on the operation of a business in this country does not support the businesses surviving or catching up real quickly without an extraordinary amount of profit margins markup, so to speak, to cover all those costs. That's why it costs us so much to do business in our country. And I'm not saying only this government. They're saying that they haven't increased taxes, but I don't know if that's entirely true. Was a tax by virtue of schedules in the tariffs has not been increased, the cost here in this country has increased. Because I know of the government taking a policy not to waive things that hitherto was waived for the ordinary man. And that's a cost, an added cost to our poor people. Now, I believe we need to try and assist wherever we can. Wherever we can enhance the lives of our people. And, you know, I listened to the minister, and we know, and I know there's another motion coming up that the same kind of application, reverse, but coming from their side, is going to be shown that is about revenue as well. And yes, the country has to run on revenue, but Mr. Warren Connolly told me one time, if the country has, the people should have. If the country does not have, then the people can't expect to have. They must work with it to get the country to have. We need to make sure that we lift each other. When the tide rises, we should all rise. When it falls, we should all fall. But in tandem with each other, in parallel to each other. You cannot expect, Madam Speaker, for the government to rise and the people fall. Because as soon as they start falling, the water is going to get above their heads. And that's what's happening. Madam Speaker, let's say that the member from Northside and I need to remove the Cayman passport thing. No big deal. Let's say we need to look further at the duties of 27%. No big deal. But the intent of this was to try and see where we can go to help our people. Maybe Maybe the government will say, well, let's come up with an alternative. This is not the right thing. We need to help them in other ways. But let's do something. Because I can tell you, Madam Speaker, despite the government talking about $150 million profit, our people are hurting. Madam Speaker, it's not like they don't know, you know. They live in the same communities we live in. They see it, they feel it. They can measure it. Not only is it measurable, it's tangible for them. Just like it's tangible for me. We have people that we need to help every day. How we work towards getting them on their feet. Where do we send them, Madam Speaker? And yeah, somebody's going to say, that's why we need to collect the revenue from people like me and the member from North Side. Where do we send them? Over at the Financial Assistance Unit. That's the best we can do. But the fact that people cannot help themselves, we need to find some way of assisting them. We got a minimum wage that is now proposed. Let's accept it. Let's move. Let's move. Yes, it's a small percentage compared with all of us, but let's move. Let's do it. Let's get it in place. Sometimes it is necessary to do these things in order that our people survive, live, lifted up, able to help their families. The government got the homes. Nobody can buy them because when the target that we need to reach, we're not reaching. We're creating a sense of who are we developing for? We are creating a sense of the system does not support me. What do I do to get attention? See, the leader of the opposition is now trying to get something going in West Bay about bringing factions together and bridging that divide. How we think it happened? It's us. It's us. Madam Speaker, legislator of 14 years. It's an indictment on me that my people are still hurting to the extent that they're hurting. But there are others in here who the indictment on too, you know. It's us. Let us, if this is not the right thing, let us find something. Because those who can afford to go away, Cayman should be feel free to go away. What? We're going to teach our children that the world begins and then at Hogside Bay? That's not where the world begins and ends. Because what you're going to get then is people without a mind. Their minds are going to be as thin as case knives. What happens then? We're contained to our own little environment? Madam Speaker, I need to get off this soapbox. Because it bothers me that we don't come up with alternatives on how to help our people. We expect them to be as successful as some of us. Many of us were in the right place at the right time. Many of us didn't find that place, but we got children there that we can help find that place that this country's future can be a little bit better off. But we're concerned about, well, I could do it, you should be allowed. You got the same brain in your head and you can do what I did. That's not true. It's about opportunities. We like to talk about businesses, the success of a business is location, location, location. Well, the success of this country is opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. That's what it's about. Who creates opportunity, opportunity, opportunity? The people goes to the polls every 4 years and use a pencil, a lead pencil. And we dismiss that lead pencil until the next 4 years. That is the great equalizer in this political arena. Take heed.
Does any other member wish to speak? Final call. I recognize the second elected member from the District of Georgetown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity just really to make a few observations and points with regard to debate this morning with regard to the motion that is before us. I'm speaking in support of Minister of Finance and his comments that were made earlier in the debate. Madam Speaker, the first thing I'd like to make mention of the fact that when the Minister was giving examples of what the revenue loss would be, I think it was not, to me, it was not made particularly clear that this is the maximum potential loss of revenue to government. It is quite clear, and I think everyone in this House, we all recognize and know that not everyone, local or resident who travels, uses up that $350 allowance every time. I travel quite a bit during the year and never use it. So we know one thing. We know that the number isn't zero. But what the challenge is for us, we know what the maximum potential loss is. But where it lies in between, I think, is open to anyone's guess as to what the true loss to government is in revenues. But it's one thing I feel certain as a frequent traveler and an accountant, I know that the revenue loss is substantial to government because people do travel and they do take advantage of that allowance every way. Secondly, Madam Speaker, just like to mention, hadn't been mentioned yet in the debate, but from my perspective too, there are, in terms of foregoing revenue and giving further I guess tax incentives or reductions, I think as a government it has to be extremely careful if it is going to find itself in a position to comply with the PMFL by the deadline of June 30th of 2016. I think government has made it and stated publicly many times their intention to ensure that the country does bring its finances into compliance with the public management and finance law requirements by the stated deadline. And I think that the tremendous amount of progress has been made, but even with projections as they now stand today, Madam Speaker, there is not much room for wiggle. If we are going to comply, it is essential for us to preserve the revenue streams as much as we can in order to ensure that compliance. And I think what we will see happen is potentially, once compliance does come into effect and we no longer the oversight and control of the Foreign Office, that government will have a little bit more freedom to make decisions like this. And although we will have to ensure continuing compliance with the public management and finance law, it gives government a little bit more flexibility in terms of managing the finances and affairs of the country. Now, Madam Speaker, last year, certainly in this budget cycle, government made some concessions in terms of reductions of taxes to help the private sector, and in particularly small businesses and those who are particularly hurting. By anyone's measure, they were fairly modest, but it's what the government felt it could afford at the time. Government have also indicated that they are going to afford give a small increase in terms of compensation to the civil service this year. I think these efforts and these tokens really demonstrate the good faith and goodwill of the government to do things as and when they feel that they are in a position to do so, but at the same time not compromise the ultimate aim of insurance compliance with the law in 2016. And then just purely from an economic standpoint, Madam Speaker, third point I wish to make is that increasing our allowance from 350 to 500 does absolutely nothing to promote commerce in Cayman. We all wish and want to see our local economy thrive, and we want to see ourselves support local commerce. Giving this increase will do nothing. In fact, what it will do, it will encourage more spending overseas, more money leaving the economy. And I'm not sure that that's in the best interests of us at this point in time, given the fragility of our own economy. So I think before we actually embark upon these types of initiatives, it is important for us to understand clearly what the true ramifications are. Because we see and hear of so many of our local businesses, particularly small business, struggling. And while we do small things to try and help, things like this will just simply reverse a lot of the efforts that we have made to try and help our local businesses to survive in this environment of a reduced economic activity. And while we have touted and we talk, we show and we believe that the economy has turned and is continuing to improve, the improvements, as I've always said, Madam Speaker, are not spectacular. The glory days of 2005 through 2007, they're gone. And we're not at this point forecasting or projecting growth of 5, 6, 7% like we've had in the past. It's 2, it's 3, maybe 2.5, 2% is what we're looking at. And while that is great, it means that it is a very measured and steady growth rather than the heydays that we have had in the past. And so for those reasons, Madam Speaker, I would just conclude my debate here by just saying I support the Minister and in rejecting the motion this morning. Thank you very much.
I recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for Financial Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I gave way to my friend, the second elected member from Georgetown, just now. And of course, when you do that, sometimes you end up having points covered that you wanted to make. And certainly the point that he very ably made in relation to commerce and the support of small business is one that was particularly of concern for me. I think I see where the mover and seconder are going with the motion. The intention is fine, but we are doing everything we can to promote small businesses, as my friend has said. Just to add a bit more color to that, in the last year, as a result, I think, of our concession, our stimulus in relation to trade and business licenses, and that was that we had small businesses and we had micro businesses essentially with
zero fees in respect of trade and business licenses. We have now had up to this point, we're not quite a year yet, but we have now had up to this point somewhere in the region of double the numbers of trade and business licenses, the new grants for trade and business licenses versus the previous year. So it shows, Madam Speaker, that that program is working, and we are trying to create the right environment to help support those. And I think my ministerial colleague, the Minister of Finance, has ably demonstrated that the number that is utilized, that is in the law at the moment, in terms of the 350, is fairly generous. I think the point should be made, Madam Speaker, as well, that for the average family, if you have four family members that are traveling, converted to US dollars, that's over 1,700 US dollars. So that is a significant allowance. He has pointed out that it's already generous compared to many countries in the region. I say all of this, Madam Speaker, to really support the notion that while that is generous, we want to make sure that we support our local businesses as well. Without having growth in our economy and keeping money within our economy and allowing that multiplier effect to occur within our economy, we are wasting opportunities. We're wasting some of the good benefits that we have been creating and seeking to achieve in our local economy. And, Madam Speaker, the member from East End made the point that we need to be finding ways to help the people of the country, to help consumers. We fully accept, we fully understand that, Madam Speaker. One of the things we did to try to help the economy was, as I said earlier, the small business stimulus. Madam Speaker, we had a statement yesterday in terms of the fuel duty reduction. That gets translated directly to consumers. We also, Madam Speaker, have had a reduction in import duty for licensed traders from 22% down to 20%. That, Madam Speaker, reduces the cost of doing business, and at the same time, hopefully gets translated into savings to the consumer. We realize that that is subject to some variance. Competition, on the other hand, helps to drive the right direction on that and create the right motivation there. But it cannot be said, Madam Speaker, that we are not aware and alive to the issues of trying to reduce the cost of doing business and trying to reduce the cost of living to the average person in this country, because we are, and we are doing it. We are demonstrating success. Inflation is low, and there's no doubt that the things that we have initiated are having a very positive contribution to keeping those costs down and addressing the concerns of the member from East End. But, Madam Speaker, just going back to the small business stimulus, we said initially it has been very effective. We said initially when we put it in place that we would review it after a year, and we will be doing that. And I think because of the success, we're extremely likely to be carrying it on for at least another year. So with that, Madam Speaker, I would say I stand in support of the Minister for Finance's response and the government's position in relation to this private member's motion, and I thank you very much.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Final call. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I'll call on the member from Northside if he wishes to exercise his right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What a sad day for this country. Madam Speaker, I listened very carefully to the statistical defense and argument given by the Minister of Finance. And I noted with interest the choice of the comparisons. The 600 liters of liquor gave the comparison of 7,000 by volume and 300 or something by ad valorem. Anyway, it was very heavily in favor of volume. It is so unfortunate that he used the $5 bottle of liquor to produce those figures and not the $250 bottle of liquor. Because had he used the $250 bottle of liquor, it would have been almost equal, or the other way around. And Madam Speaker, I really find it difficult to accept that the government is so concerned about the increased loss of revenue that such a increase in the allowance would give to the people that need it the most. But there's no concern about the loss of revenue for concessions for billionaire developers. We give them anything that they ask for. We were told here in September that the dark conglomerate has already gotten around $15 million on their hotel alone that is only 3 stories and it's going to 10. Imagine what it's going to be by the time it gets to 10. And Madam Speaker, you hear them saying they're promoting small business. But there's no requirement by these billionaire developers to buy the product locally. We have no concern of what that would do to grow the local economy. But we are concerned that some working mother goes to Miami and can get a pair of school sneakers for her child for $25 from Walmart, but if she go downtown, she got to pay $75 for the same pair of shoes. We want her to pay the $75 to grow the local economy. But the dark conglomerate, who will get millions in concessions, not required to spend one dime locally in the local economy. It's easy for them to do that, Madam Speaker. All they have to do is say to the people, we will give you the duty rebate. Buy it locally. Imagine what that would do to the local economy's growth if all of the building materials, all of the furniture, because Cayman furniture stores closing down because of lack of business. Because people like the hoteliers who get it duty free are allowed to buy it overseas and pay no duty on it. But that don't concern us. The Minister for Financial Services says that the increase in business license is about 100% since you reduced the rate. Somewhere around 100%, I think you said. Double, that's 100%, same thing, double. Madam Speaker, I predict to him that in 2 years, 75% of them close. Because the only reason they come get the business license now, because it's basically free. Because, Madam Speaker, we're not going to put in no Fair Trade Commission now with a certificate of need. The fact that you got 900 million beauty salons and 25 people come and apply tomorrow for beauty salons because the business license is free, that's growth in the local economy. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance compared the allowances to Cayman for lots of other territories. Most of those who were lower than Cayman have a lower cost of living in Cayman. Because, Madam Speaker, as I told you, these people not afraid to charge you money, you know. On the $5 bottle of rum, the price in the local liquor store is $34.99. With $11 due there. $7.50 ml. And if you go buy it at the bar, it's $10.50 an ounce. Another big concern, Madam Speaker, of the Minister of Finance is if we go to cost insurance and freight, people can cheat. Yeah, if we don't have enforcements and customs already to take care of that, we're in big trouble. And the provisions under the customs law for those who get caught cheating are substantial. Unless you work for government, senior civil servant. Then you get it, forget about it. Now, Madam Speaker, all I'm seeking to do, the people in my constituency who every summer they take their family, they save all year, and then they probably still have to borrow money and extend their credit cards to take their 2 children for a summer vacation. And they try to buy clothes and shoes and socks and stuff for the children so they can dress decently and properly to go to school and go to church for the rest of the year. Most of them go away once a year. Those are the people that this $500 can help. Those are the people that need the $350. The number of people traveling, I'm like the second elected member from Georgetown. I think I made 14 or 15 trips overseas last year. I never claimed for allowance on the one. And if I have anything that don't fall under that, you know I can declare it. And I can pay my due then. So, Madam Speaker, I don't believe that increasing the allowance from $350 to $500 for the Caymanians that really need the assistance is going to erode revenue to the volume that the government suggests. And it certainly isn't going to erode revenue to the level of what we give in developers. I hear all through the place. Here you bringing me all kind of reports on this new development in Beach Bay. That we've done all this land changing and rezoning and road moving and everything else for. Trust me. The concessions that they're going to get on that from the government far exceed anything that this little increase here could do. And trust me that the government ain't going to put on it that they got to buy the product locally to stimulate the local economy. But, Madam Speaker, my conscience don't allow me to be part of that and punish the Caymanians on the other side of the coin. Because, Madam Speaker, whether the government wants to believe it or not, there are families in my constituency that I know about, and I believe there are families in their constituencies that would be happy and are in need of this little increase in their allowance. And those families ain't gonna get nothing out of the dark development or the beach bay development. Because, Madam Speaker, the list that was given to me the last 2 years, my child going to primary school, of what I had to supply, send her to school with on the first day of school, will fill up a Walmart cart. It's not 2 Walmart carts. And if I buy them, and buying them locally, it can cost that parent substantial money. $300-400. The extra pencils, the extra erasers, the toilet paper, the tissue paper, the alcohol wipes, the Clorox. The list is 2 pages long. Extra folders that they have to buy to get the children to go to school. And the government is here today saying that they can't increase the allowance for those kind of people from $350 to $500 because it's going to whittle down the source of revenue. Tell that to them people selling them down. Tell me the prices that they're selling the folders for, that reflected in the duty-free status. No. But we don't want price control either, right? Madam Speaker, I hear the second, I hear several of them saying this, how they're going to be compliant with the PMFL law 2016, and then things going to change. So what are they going to do? They're going to become compliant, uncompliant again next year, what? Because if you can spend money, if you can borrow money, you can be non-compliant again. It's going to take you years to get down to the level where you can borrow anything or spend extra money without breaking the law again. Unless the object is to simply say, we became non-compliant for 24 hours or 6 months or 3 months. So now the UK is not controlling us, so we can go borrow money that we shouldn't borrow now to do something else. Madam Speaker, I've done my job. I have tried to represent the needs of my people. The government has decided that those needs are not important enough for them to support them. I've tried to equate so that the poor people are not paying all the Jude and liquor, and the rich people are having their high to today, Blue Label, Appleton, and the poor man who wants to take a drink is paying all the price. Right? The government says they're not supporting the motion. I can't do no more than I've done, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
The question is that, be it therefore resolved that the government considers amending Section 51C of Schedule 2 of the Customs Tariff Law 2014 revision to increase the value of dutiable personal and household goods to 500 CI dollars, and that such duty not be subject to the discretion of the collector, that such a provision be allowed only to persons traveling on a Cayman passport. And be it further resolved that the government considers amending Chapter 22 of Schedule 1 to provide that all codes in the chapter be charged duties at the rate of 27% of cost, insurance, and freight. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No.
I believe the ayes have it. Sorry.
Can I have a division, ma'am? In light of the confusion, can I have a division, please?
Can we have a division, please?
Honorable Alden McLaughlin.
No.
Honorable Moses Kikono.
No.
Honorable Kurt Tibbetts. Honorable Osmond Bawden.
No.
Honorable Wayne Panton.
No.
Honorable Marco Archer,
No.
Honorable Tara Rivers,
No.
Honorable Anthony Eden, Mr. Winston Conley,
No.
Mr. Roy McTaggart,
No.
Mr. Joseph Hu,
No.
Mr. Alva Saku,
No.
Honorable McKeeva Bush,
Aye.
Mr. Barney Bush, Captain Eugene Ebanks, Mr. Ezra Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Art McLean,
Aye.
The results of the divisions are as follows: 4 ayes, 11 noes, and 2 absentees. Therefore, the motion 13 of 2014-15 has failed. We'll now take our luncheon break and reconvene at 2 p.m.